Good evening. My name is Steve Kaufman. I serve as an engine company captain with the Ventura County Fire Department, and I also serve as the Public Information Officer for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 4. We are coming to you live from the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds from the North Complex West Zone operational briefing / virtual community meeting on this 11th day of September 2020, 6:01 p.m. I just want to remind you that we are streaming live on the CAL FIRE Butte County Facebook. We are streaming live on the Butte County Sheriff Facebook and on the CAL FIRE Facebook page. And I talked about yesterday that there are information boards in the community, and that is an ongoing process. We are adding information boards over the next couple days. Before and after this press conference, there's a slideshow that rotates through, and those information boards where you can go physically to a piece of plywood and see information on the incident, including a map of the incident, are located all throughout the community. So I encourage you to go back, watch the end of the press conference for that slideshow, and it will have all of those locations, updated locations. More locations will be added tomorrow, so tune in tomorrow for tomorrow's updated locations. I want to talk about damage inspection real quick, just so you have an idea of what we're up against. There are 7 teams of 2 personnel engaging in damage inspection. They started this morning. They usually start in the most concentrated area first, and they're collecting damaged, destroyed, and non-damaged structural information. They use what we call an Esri data collection app, and photos are taken of each property they inspect. Their inspections comply with FEMA and OES criteria, are met for reporting. Our damage inspectors do not get in the way of operations, and they do not inspect near active firefighting activities. I'm going to give you our current numbers as of tonight. Single residents threatened, 23,356. Single residents damaged, 6. Single residents destroyed, 44. Non-residential damaged, 0. Non-residential destroyed, 11. Minor structures, 4. That's the damaged. Minor structures destroyed, 27. Now for our current numbers. I'll start with what's going on across the state of California. Over 14,800 firefighters are engaged currently in firefighting activity throughout the state of California. They're staffing over 2,200 fire engines, over 289 fire crews, over 251 dozers, and over 334 water tenders. There are currently 28 major fires or complexes across the state of California. 24 new fires since last night. And we're still holding at 2.6 million acres burned throughout the state of California since August 15th. Our numbers for the North Complex West Zone. So for clarification, that's the area of the fire that's primarily in Butte County. 70,500 acres, 5% contained. The total number for the North Complex in its entirety, 252,173 acres, 21% contained. Now we'll get an operational update from our Options Section Chief.
Good evening. My name is Ron Bravo. I'm one of the Deputy Operations for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 4. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and start on the north section of our zone and work our way around the fire to the south area of our zones. We'll start off near Yankee Hill and Big Bend. As you know that we've reported before, there was a lot of fire activity. We actually had 2 spots that crossed into Big Bend. The good news is our troops have combined both efforts with hand crews, dozers, and engines to secure the spot fires, which were well over several hundred acres, and they've been able to pin that back into the Feather River. So a lot of good work was done over the last 24 hours to get that accomplished. Still not, excuse me, still not out of the woods. We're continuing to assess contingency lines, moving on to the east towards Highway 70. Because as many of you know, if this fire gets in alignment with the Feather River drainage, it becomes very erratic, and strong winds can produce a lot of erratic fire behavior. So moving on down the fire to our Division R, the fire still remains on the east side of the lake, in the middle branch of the Feather River. So what you'll notice that this area is near Bloomer Hill Lookout, and Bloomer Hill has a lot of critical infrastructure for not only first responders but other companies. We were able to secure the repeater sites and other critical infrastructure last night and today. Our troops remain in and around Berry Creek doing structure defense and point protection. A lot of activity out there today. The fire behavior has moderated some given our current weather status, but there's still a lot of work left to be done. This fire will continue to progress to the west, but it at this point hasn't produced the fire brands that produce the spots to the north. Moving on down near Kelly Ridge in Division I, we had, where you saw the black on the map, that's our 5% of containment. We were very successful today to continue to construct handline, dozers, and pin it back in near Stringtown Mountain and Stringtown Road. A lot of activity happened last night in there and challenged the lines, but our troops were able to hold that. Moving on to the east in Division F, the fire did not cross the lake. However, it did progress to the east. We were able to pick it back up direct with both dozers, hand lines, and engines, and continue to push towards Moorville Ridge. There's also a road up there called Moorville Ridge Road that continues to progress to the east. The good news is a lot of hard work has been done in here, and we were able to connect several dots with dozers and hand line construction, and we're continuing to move to the east in Division Charlie. The same ridge and road structure that I mentioned is the same road structure and ridge that our federal counterparts to the east are coming south, or correctly west, towards our actions. So it's a joint effort. We're communicating across the zone boundary to ensure that we have direct line where we can, moving it to the east to secure the east boundaries. So like I said, a lot of good work was done here to secure this area, to help protect Kelly Ridge, and to continue to work to the east to protect Forbes-Town and Clipper Mills. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dan Borsum. I'm the incident meteorologist assigned to the firefighting effort. Today was another good day in terms of having the smoke around to keep the temperatures lower, the relative humidity a bit higher, and the winds lighter. The smoke does produce the shading, which limits the amount of visibility we have out there, which impacts some operations over the fire, but in general, it's been a good thing. The smoke is forecast to continue to be with us really for Saturday, and so tomorrow's forecast really looks very similar to today. Temperatures not really exceeding 80, relative humidity staying close to 20%, and the slope and valley winds in the afternoons not getting more than about 8 miles an hour. The down valley, down canyon winds at night, they're still gusting to 15 miles an hour, and we expect that to continue. Now the forecast does start to change a bit as we get into Sunday and Monday. We're going to have a chance to start losing the smoke, which is going to bring a little bit more sunshine, which will lower the humidity, raise the temperatures, and possibly increase the slope winds. The thing I'm always looking for is when we're going to bring alignment out there which can really support the activity of the fire itself. And I think that day is Monday. We might move enough smoke out of the region to begin increasing the temperatures, drop the humidities down to 15%, and those slope and valley winds out of the southwest will be stronger. Also may bring instability into the picture. So those are the ingredients that could escalate things for Monday. However, we're being very vigilant and watching for the weather patterns that are actually critical for this area, which is more an east wind event, and this doesn't look anything like that. It just will be a day where we see the fire activity begin to pick up. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Lieutenant Ingerson, Valley View Conservation Camp. I'm the agency representative for California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Our hearts go out to Butte County and what they've endured and what they're currently going through. We were here with you during the campfire, and we stand with you guys today. I was reading some public comments and misconceptions last night during the press brief about our inmate fire crews. Inmate fire crews play a critical role in fuels reduction and fire suppression efforts. Inmate fire crews are firefighter type 1 hand crews with the highest level of training. We have 42 crews assigned to the North Complex West Zone, totaling more than 500 inmates on the front line. Hand crews are an irreplaceable workforce that preserve life and property during fire season, as well as the rest of the year, with forced fuel reduction and fuel breaks, in addition to working with local municipalities in Butte County. Fire camps are a voluntary program that many inmates strive to achieve. Giving back to the communities gives inmates a sense of pride and accomplishment. Many inmate fire crews and firefighters become firefighters with Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Forest Service, CAL FIRE, or private firefighting agencies, breaking the cycle of reoffending. Thank you for your time today. God bless.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Corey Honey, Sheriff and Coroner of Butte County, and I'm here tonight to again give you an update on our agency's ongoing response to the North Complex West Zone, which we have previously referred to as the Bear Fire. We continue to have mutual aid from law enforcement officers from throughout Northern California providing patrol in evacuated areas, and we continue to be thankful for the swift assistance that we receive from hundreds of law enforcement partners throughout California. In addition to that, we have requested additional resources in the form of urban search and rescue teams who will be deployed to help us search for the remains of humans who may have perished within the fire zone. Right now, the areas that we need to search are too hot, and CAL FIRE has asked us to wait to deploy those later when that is safe for that to be done. So we're going to be evaluating that deployment starting on Monday. Last, I certainly want to thank all of our partners in this response and management, CAL FIRE, U.S. Forest Service, California Department of Corrections Rehabilitation, and many others who I probably don't have time to name, but it's this collective response that is important. But finally, and probably most importantly, I want to thank our community. I know you have been through so much. We've been through a lot together. I know that this is just one more thing, but I do appreciate your support, and I do appreciate your patience. So with that, I'll begin by providing an update on our evacuation orders and our evacuation warnings for the North Complex West Zone. So tonight, I get to announce that the evacuation order for the areas of Kelly Ridge and Lower Mount Ida have been reduced to an evacuation warning. Everything east of Miners Ranch Road will remain an evacuation order until it is safe to change that. All other evacuation orders and warnings remain in place. Now, I know that there was a lot of confusion and frustration around individuals not being able to get in or out of areas that were classified as evacuation warnings. I have been assured by my staff and our partners in the California Highway Patrol, who I also appreciate their assistance, that has been resolved and that people should not have problems with ingress or egress of areas that are under warning. If there is, I will work to solve that as quickly as I possibly can. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge that we keenly understand how difficult it is for you to be displaced from your homes. The fact of the matter is, many of our employees are also displaced from their homes, and we are no strangers to this, having been through what we've been through in this community. I will also tell you that once we issue an evacuation order, having gone through the process of trying to determine what areas should be evacuated, the pressure to repopulate those areas begins almost immediately. And I can assure you that as we go through working with our partners in CAL FIRE, constantly evaluating what the threat is, and when we can open those areas up and get you back home. I know you're frustrated. I know you want to be home. We want you to be home, but we want to do it in a way that ensures safety. Next, I'd like to address an issue that has come up over the last couple of days. And earlier today, a press release was put out about it. And it has to do with our partners in the media and their conduct, or at least some of the conduct that has been reported to us or exhibited within the evacuated area, or within the fire burn area, that is causing some problems for us. Now, let me begin by saying this. Despite my sometimes gruff approach, or what seems to be impatience with the media, I actually really value the media and have a good relationship with the vast majority of our media partners. They do an important job that we want to support. That said, and I have spoken with the editor of our local paper as well as the director of our local news station about this issue. We're not seeing any problems with our local media, and so I appreciate that greatly. But I've talked with both those individuals about this concern, and they both agree with us that we need our media partners to be cognizant of where they're parking their vehicles so that they don't impede firefighting apparatus. Secondly, that they don't go anywhere or engage in activity that would interfere with firefighters' ability to fight the fire. And third, be respectful of people's private property. And I understand you have an important job to do. You're out there, you're reporting on what's going on. That's important. We want that to happen. But recognize that the way in which you report, sometimes you can show things about a person's private property that they may be learning about the fate of their home from a news broadcast. And that is a very, very traumatic thing. We dealt with this in the campfire. I don't want to have to deal with this again. Today, some officers located a news crew from out of the area on a piece of private property. They were in the backyard. There wasn't any apparent reason for them to be there. When they were contacted, they indicated that they were there to help feed the chickens that were left behind. By all indications, their intentions were good, and I appreciate and respect their desire to help take care of those animals. But please be aware that these residences, these properties, these are people's private property. These are their homes. They've already been displaced. They've already felt the sting of perhaps losing everything that they have got. We ask that you be respectful and respect people's private property rights, and do your job in the way that you need to, but don't interfere in any way in our ability to fight the fire or keep people safe. So I'd like to now move to an update on our effort to conduct welfare checks and locate individuals who are currently unaccounted for. To date, the Butte County Sheriff's Office has received reports of 151 individuals who were either unaccounted for or needed their welfare checked upon at the request of a family member. As of this afternoon, BCSO, Butte County Sheriff's Office detectives, have successfully located 123 of those individuals. As I sit here tonight, there are 19 individuals that we are still looking for. Our intention is to check the last known location where those individuals were, utilizing the urban search and rescue teams. And then after that, if we haven't had luck or success in locating those individuals, I may release the names to the local media and request assistance in identifying or locating those individuals as we did in the campfire. I'd now like to update you on our effort to locate the remains of people who may have perished in the fire. And as you know from my prior briefings, this is a very, very difficult part of the presentation. But tonight, I am pleased to announce that no additional human remains have been located. Anthropologists from California State University, Chico, Butte County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue, as well as law enforcement personnel, checked a number of areas, and again, no additional remains have been found. I also am actually happy to make a clarification. Last night, we reported that there were 7 people located. As it turned out, we're going to reduce that by 1. revising our count from 10 to 9. What happened was deputies responded to a location. They looked in the burned remains of a storage shed and found what appeared to be the skeletal remains of an individual. After those remains were checked by the anthropologists, they determined that it was not the remains of a human being who had perished in the fire, but instead was an anatomical model of a skeleton. The resident who owned the property confirmed that while studying anthropology, he used the model for his studies and that it was made of resin. But I've seen pictures of it, and I will tell you that in the burn condition that it very, very much looked like an authentic set of human remains. And so I certainly don't fault our staff for coming to that initial conclusion, but I'm happy to report that that is not the remains of the individual who perished in the fire. So, to be clear, our total number of deceased individuals as a result of this fire has been lowered to 9. I want to give you an update on some of the deaths that we reported on the first day. We have worked diligently to try to identify those individuals and make the appropriate notifications to the next of kin. We think it's important to do that before we release any information that might lead to the identity of the individual before we've had a chance to break the news to the friends and family. So tonight we can announce that we have positively identified and notified the next of kin on 2 deceased individuals. First, on September 9th, 2020, CAL FIRE located a vehicle in the area of Greystone Lane and Coyote Road in Berry Creek. The remains of a female was located near the vehicle. The female has been positively identified as Millicent Catarancic. That's spelled C-A-T-A-R-A-N-C-U-I-C. She was 77 of Berry Creek. The remains of 2 other individuals possibly associated with her were also found in the area, but positive identification is pending, so I'm not yet ready to answer any questions about those individuals. We have information that those subjects were aware of the fire, but chose not to immediately evacuate. I'd like to send my sincerest condolences to the family and friends of Mrs. Catarancic. Next, I would like to confirm that the remains of Josiah Williams, age 16 of Berry Creek, have been positively identified, and his next of kin has been notified. I know that that information was published on social media and reported in some of our local media. That was a decision that the family made. I don't fault them. I respect their decision, but I would rather that information come from them rather than us before we had an opportunity to speak to them. So we are confirming that tonight. There were 2 other members of the household who were able to get out of the area safely, and it was believed that Josiah was leaving the area in his own vehicle, but it appears that he did not make it out. I'd like to also just express my thanks and gratitude to Andy Rapid DNA. For those of you who were with us in the campfire, you know that we utilized Andy Rapid DNA to help us identify the decedents in that fire. They stepped up to the plate again during this incident, and it's because of them we were able to rapidly analyze DNA specimens and hopefully bring you the information about these closures, about these decedents in a timely fashion. And that concludes my briefing for tonight, so thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Dave Russell. I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations in the Tehama Glen Unit, and I serve as the Incident Commander for CAL FIRE IMT-4. First off, I'd like to start this evening by saying we thank you, the citizens of Butte County, for your cooperation and understanding as we work through these difficult times to suppress this fire. We did receive a lot of questions last night about products and the products that we're able to produce to the public. I want to kind of put some things in perspective as this fire season continues. With all the fires in the state of California, there's limited resources available. On a fire this size, currently this morning we had approximately 1,800 people assigned to this incident. Typically on a fire that is 70,000 acres, we will see upwards of 4,000 to 4,500 firefighters for this type of incident. With that, we prefer to have our firefighters on the line fighting fire instead of working here in camp, producing map products, etc., even though we're trying to get the most information out to you as possible. It is our #1 priority, 1, to protect life and property, and 2, evaluate the evacuation warnings and orders that are currently in place, find the places that were most successful to suppress the fire, deem those areas safe, and work with our law enforcement partners to get you back into that area or take you out of an evacuation warning. Earlier, Captain Kaufman spoke about our damage inspection process. Early on in the incident, we needed to do what we call a windshield survey, where we drive through communities, we look at other information and try to determine the impact to the structures in the communities within the fire area. Today, we began the formal process of sending those damage inspection teams out and then validating a more thorough inspection with documentation, pictures, really identifying what's damaged versus destroyed. What I would like to announce tonight is tomorrow morning, roughly at about 0800 in a press release, we will be providing a document, a link to a dashboard that will give you public viewing of our damage inspection process. That way you can look throughout the day, you can look through the different communities, and you'll be able to see where our damage inspection teams are working and what residents or commercial buildings that they've validated that have either been damaged or destroyed. There'll be no pictures associated with this information, but it's for you as the public if you're wondering what has happened to your property as you've evacuated. Thank you and have a good evening.
Okay, we are going to change up our format for questions a little bit tonight. First of all, I want you to know that last night after the operational briefing and virtual community meeting, we reviewed each and every comment that people made in the feed. And the first thing I want to do is I want to thank the viewers who answered questions that were already covered in the press conference but came up in the feed. That's extremely helpful, and one of the things that I really need to drive home is we're working really hard to make sure that we address the questions that come up in the feed. And so what I'm asking the public is, if you join the press conference late, please review the video following the live presentation, because a lot of the questions are covered in the operational briefing from the operations section chief. And even before we started today, as I was watching the questions come in, people are asking questions before we even present the material. So I really encourage you to look at the material and listen to the material and then ask questions based on the lack thereof after that. We want to get you the most accurate information, and we want to answer your questions. So the way we're going to switch it up today is we're going to talk about questions from that public feed that we've been looking at live. So what I'll do is I'll bring each discipline up. They have some flashcards of the questions that were on that feed. We will start with our operations section chief, and he has some flashcards. He'll tell you what the question was, and then he'll answer the question appropriately. I'll be back.
All right, good evening again, Ron Bravo, Deputy Operations. So I'll start off with the first question, and then I'll go to the board to make sure it's clarified where it's at. But there's a question as it relates to Yuba County. Which jurisdiction are they under? Current conditions of Forbstown and the Yuba County line. So for reference, the unique part of the county line is it weaves in and out all along what would be our southern edge. So we are in close coordination with Yuba County and the Yuba County Sheriff. There are several evacuation orders in place, which includes Forbes-town, as well as Brownsville and Challenge. Those are continually part of our process to evaluate when it's deemed safe to be able to allow those to reopen. We are having those discussions every day, and we do have a representative, like I said, from the from Yuba County Sheriff's Office with us to make sure that we're all on the same page, and that is continually being done. To reiterate, Brownsville is still under evacuation order, as well as Forbes-town. There was a question right at the beginning of the update, and it had to do with Cherokee. So Cherokee is still under an evacuation order. The fire is still not to that location, however, it is to the east of the lake and back. The fire is backing down towards the lake. As you recalled earlier, I did discuss how we had a spot fire early on that jumped into the Big Bend area. When we feel that those spots have been diminished, or the potential for creating large spots has been diminished, then we can evaluate whether or not Cherokee is basically free of a risk, and that's still yet to come. A good question that was asked by the audience and I didn't cover, and it's one of the things that's a challenge on this incident, as well as all the incidents in California that are under a heavy smoke inversion. What's our ability to use aircraft? We are very limited on aircraft. One, it may be clear on different spots of the fire. However, the location where the aircraft may have to take off from is very, very limited due to the impacts of the smoke. So we didn't get a lot of aircraft use today, very minimal yesterday as well, because of that limited visibility and the ability to get up off the deck and to actually see their targets of opportunity. So aircraft will continue to be challenged until the weather changes. A couple questions came in about Brush Creek. And for those that don't know the location of Brush Creek, but it's up Oro Quincy Highway near this spot on the map right here. As you can tell, it is in the middle of the burned area. And for those that haven't been up there in the past, it's heavy fuel loading with large timber and brush. It's still very similar to what we have going on in Brush Creek, with a lot of structure, defense, and pinpoint protection. That area is still going to take some time to be able to deem safe for even road crews to get in there, because there's been a lot of damage to different roadways and guardrails. So it'll be time before we can actually get everybody in there to assess for all the damage. And that should be it.
Okay, so as you can see, we're writing the questions down, we're putting them on the cards. Next, I want to bring up the sheriff for a couple questions from our live feed.
Looks like there were two questions that were directed at the Sheriff's Office. The first one was a clarifying question with regard to Kelly Ridge. It asks if the evacuation order has been reduced to an evacuation warning, and it has. So that means the people who are in Kelly Ridge, in that area, can return to their homes. They can come and go from their homes, but we ask that they remain vigilant and be ready to evacuate should the situation change and we need to order such an evacuation. The second question is Yankee Hill still under mandatory evacuation? The term that we actually use is an evacuation order, and so I'm going to stay with that term, but the answer is yes, Yankee Hill is still under an evacuation order. But as I said, the pressure is constantly mounting for us to open areas up, and we work collaboratively with CAL FIRE to get those areas opened up as soon as it's safe to do that. And I know that these areas are being discussed on a daily basis, so folks, we're trying to get you back to your home as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, so there were a couple of questions about specific addresses of the DINs. I'm going to bring our incident commander up here, and he'll briefly talk about that.
So with the DINS dashboard, you will be able to type your address in to the program. If your address, I believe, if it does not come up, it means that they have not completed the inspection for that specific address. There will be symbols on the structures that they have inspected. Be patient with the program as they're working in areas that have poor connectivity. So at different points throughout the day, they will be updating it. What we will try to do every evening is we will look and try to give you a percentage of completion for a specific area or for the entire site. A lot of it's rough information, but as you see that tomorrow, you will have a very good idea of where the teams are working. And if you're local, you will know kind of how large the area is.
Okay, so the common theme last night during the press conference was let the public answer the questions first. I think we've accomplished that. I appreciate the patience from the community. We are completely on both the law enforcement side and the fire side. We are completely humbled by your support. We will continue to bring you these press conferences every night. I'm going to open it up to our members of the media that are in here, and we'll do the same exact thing that we did. I'll yell out the discipline. If anybody has questions for that discipline, then ask when they come up. If it's not for that specific discipline, and what I mean is don't ask the sheriff fire questions, don't ask the incident commander sheriff questions, because they're not going to know it, and we'll go by discipline. So we'll start with our fire meteorologist. Anybody have any questions for the fire meteorologist? Seeing and hearing none. Anybody have any questions for our incident commander? Seeing and hearing none. Anybody have any questions for our operations section chief? Seeing and hearing none. And last but certainly not least, anybody have any questions for Sheriff Honey? Okay. We'll bring you a mic, and the sheriff will come up here and answer it for you. You can go ahead and start.
Sure,
and he'll
yeah,
be here in a
Mallory
sec.
Mensch with the San Francisco Chronicle. I was wondering if you have information that you can share on where exactly, say, in what towns the other 7 remaining individuals who were found? Okay, and then, no? All right, a second question is, can you give some information on, say, Berry Creek in particular, where the 2 individuals were found? When were those evacuation orders given? You know, how much time did people have to get out? And it sounds like you're pretty certain that those individuals did not heed those warnings?
So I'm not going to go much more in depth with regard to the decedents, and there's reasons for that. I think I've given the information that I had. But we, as soon as we understood the gravity of the situation from our counterparts in the fire service, we issued evacuation orders utilizing multiple ways and methods to get the message out, including sending deputies up into those areas, and got that evacuation rolling. I'm sorry, were you here when I was speaking? You were not? Okay, so you heard me go through the fact that we believe those individuals had knowledge of the fire and didn't immediately evacuate. And for the sake of all the members of my community who are listening, I'm going to leave it at that. Okay? Thank you.
Sheriff, while you're up there, there's one last question from the public I just want to get in, and they just want to know what actions are you taking to prevent looting?
Thank you very much. Always a concern, and that is why I talk about the significant number of law enforcement personnel who are here in Butte County assisting us from all over Northern California. We have proactive patrols within those areas that have been evacuated, looking for people who shouldn't be there, who might be doing something that they shouldn't be doing. The story that I related to you about encountering some individuals who turned out to be medium individuals seeking to feed some chickens, they were actually located by law enforcement officers who were patrolling the area, looked at that situation, and they were concerned that that was suspicious, so they stopped them. So I think that's evidence of the fact that our folks are doing their absolute best. Now, I will just tell you this, and we've said it before, we've had this problem in other circumstances where we've had to evacuate people. I'll make the statement that I made in the past, and I won't make any apologies for that. Someone who goes into an area that has been evacuated because of a fire or some other catastrophe and preys upon the innocent victims that are in there is the lowest form of scum. And if we catch you, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that you're prosecuted and you spend time in jail. And I can say that with some degree of certainty because, one, the district attorney and I are in lockstep on this issue, and number two, to the degree that I can keep a person in custody to set an example for anyone else who might do that, I will do so. Please, please consider your fellow human beings and consider the fact that under these circumstances, you do not need to prey upon these people. So thank you very much.
I just want to say that I was one of the people that I was asked, what was I doing? It is the best that I have seen in any fire for 6 years that I've been covering. The sheriffs or whomever is out there are doing a great job with that. And I told them, this is the first time I've been questioned. They don't know, who the person is driving in a back road or in the front road or whatever. I love it. Thank you very much. Good job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those comments. And it must have been in some of those out-of-town cops because all my deputies know who you are. Okay.
All right, that concludes our press conference for tonight. As always, if you want any more information on any of the major fires that are going on in the state of California right now, I encourage you to go to fire.ca.gov. Once you're on that site, there's an incident tab. Click on the incident tab. Once you're in the incident tab, click on 2020. It will take you to a map of the state of California. And all the fires are indicated by little tiny flames. Click on the little flame in the area that you're interested in finding out about the fire, and it will bring up all the information about that specific fire. In addition to that, I always remind people that if you go to the readysetgo.org website, it has all kinds of great tips, including our Ready Set Go program, and tips to prepare your family and your home in the event of a wildfire. That's readyforwildfire.org. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 6:01. Oh, yes, thank you. 10 minutes from now, we will follow up with a Spanish language version of our press conference. So for those of you that are waiting for a Spanish language version, we will be live in 10 minutes. Thank you very much.